And so thank you to Boris for being here today. Boris is a very experienced coach. He's an MCC with thousands of hours of coaching, and was an active board member in the UK ICF. So he has a lot of knowledge about the framework, and has built the ICF credentialing exam simulator, which I will say I used to prepare for my exam. Thank you very much, Boris, for helping me through that. And so we've invited Boris here today to share that wealth of knowledge with our community members and beyond, in the hope that we can support you through your credentialing experience and make it as gentle and easy as possible. So over to you, Boris.
Great, well, wonderful to be here. Thank you very much for that, Emma. Thank you, Awaken. And I'm excited to share a little bit of my journey and my slides. Let's see if I can find them. Hopefully you can see my screen. Yeah? Brilliant. So I'm here to help you prepare for your exam. And I've been doing this for a little while, since 2006, so 20 years. And despite the grey hair, it means I was basically a baby when I started. And I'm an MCC as of this year. So I fairly recently passed the exam that we're looking at. And that's kind of what spurred me on to build this simulator thing. And I hope at the end of today you'll kind of know a bit more about what the exam is and have some ideas around how to study, and have learnt some stuff, and we'll try and practice some bits too, for people. So hopefully that will be useful. Does that sound good? Yeah? Thumbs up? Okay, fantastic. Feel free to ask questions in the chat, and hopefully Emma can relay relevant ones, and I'll try and remember to pause. Emma said just a few slides, but I did quite a few slides, but I'll go quickly. So, okay. So first of all, just to make sure that we all know that the exam is not your recorded coaching assessment. I don't know if you're going for ACC or PCC or MCC, but basically, this is the exam that tests your knowledge, and it assumes that you've done your application, and once you've kind of applied and had your recordings assessed either by your school or if you're doing it as a kind of a portfolio approach, then you've got the exam afterwards. You get invited to do your exam. In terms of a mindset, really the exam is, you've got to think of it as what does the ICF want from me here a little bit. We'll go into that more. But yeah, just so you know, it's not the exam. And so the ACC and PCC, we're doing different things. They're different exams. At the moment, there's 2 exams, ACC exam and the PCC MCC exam. I wouldn't be surprised if they split it and we have 3 different ones at some point. But for now, it looks like this. And your ACC exam has 60 questions. You've got 90 minutes. And 39 minutes roughly per section, with a bit of a break in between and a couple of minutes to read things. And the PCC exam, it'd be interesting actually to see those of you, which ones are you looking to do? Are you looking to do ACC or PCC MCC exam? Maybe you can put that in the chat or shout it out. Where is the chat?
We have
Apparently
3 people going for lots of PCC, 1 ACC and an MCC.
Brilliant.
A good mix.
That's fantastic. Great stuff. So the PCC MCC exam at the moment, I say that because it's changing at the time of recording, it is 78 situational judgment items. So that basically means it's like you wake up and you don't know what world you're in. You sort of wake up and say, okay, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? And you've got a paragraph, often quite long and quite complicated, that gives you a coaching scenario. And then it says, what should the coach do next, I think. And then you have 4 options. So with the ACC exam, you pick the best option that relates to either a knowledge or a situation. With the PCC MCC exam as it stands, it's 78 situational judgment. So you wake up in that world, you work out what the coach should do, and then you pick the best and the worst options. And so yeah, and as the bottom of this slide says, things are changing. So basically from 10th of November, things are going to be changing. So just sort of under a week ago, this landed, which is timely for our recording. So what did it actually say and what's happening? This is what the transition looks like. So timing wise, right now, if you're doing the PCC application, you're going to have a chance to do the exam as I've described. And then in November, a new type of exam is coming out for the PCC MCC, and that involves 80 items, of which 44 are those situational judgment, find the best and worst scenario. And then you're going to have some that are the same as the ACC have been around testing your knowledge. Okay, so it's 80 items, 44 situational judgment, and 36 of these sort of knowledge questions, and it's in less time. So thankfully, a bit less, 20 minutes less time. The exam at the moment is 180, so 3 hours, and in future it's going to be a little bit less than that, at 150 minutes with that 10-minute break in between. That's assuming you're not having any additional time added, which we can come on to. So there's a transition, and what does that mean? Well, it means that we don't exactly know who and who's going to do what when, but basically from November there's this new exam available, and I'm not sure if you choose yourselves. In the past, people have been able to choose. Sometimes it's been forced on it, sometimes it's been done by location, if I remember correctly. So we're not quite sure exactly when you'll be doing which. But we do know that from March 2027, I think it's the end of March, then everybody will be doing the new exam. So any questions on that, by the way, while we're here, since there's quite a few PCCs? And I can't see the chat, by the way, Emma, so... No? Okay. All right, we'll crack on then. So, what's a good idea? What should you be sort of looking to do? Well, know the sources of wisdom, as it were. That goes for the ACC or for all the levels, basically. It's a good idea to review the core competencies. Definitely review that code of ethics. Be clear about what coaching is and isn't, mentoring, consulting, all that sort of stuff. Super important. And it's also a good idea to review your training material. Okay? So those are kind of the standard stuff. I would say code of ethics is a big one, and I'll come to that in a minute. Like how you answer the questions is probably another useful thing. So in terms of how you might want to answer them, I found this first thing really helpful. So read the answers first. It's different for different people, but it can be quite a long paragraph. I had someone who had used my initial simulator, was testing it for me, and then did the exam and said, "My God, Boris, it was 10 lines." He was saying it was 10 lines. Can't believe it. So he was shocked at the level of detail, and often there's sort of it's quite a tiring thing mentally. It's quite tiring. So I found it helpful to read the answers and say, okay, what do I need to know? What department they're in? No, I'll ignore that bit of the information. Okay, so I can focus on the right bits. Also, to be honest, when you look at it, you can think that's probably a worst answer, and you drag it over to the worst answer slot, and then you can kind of, by a process of elimination, guess. That said, sometimes you don't like any of the answers. I looked at one and there was 4, and I was like, those are all bad. Those are all bad. And then what do you do? Well, what you do then is, you think, okay, well, these are the options I have to pick from. Then which really is the worst for the PCC MCC exam, right? The other thing to say, so it can be useful to think, okay, is this probably ethics, or is it specifically related to one competency? And then that can help you narrow down your choices. The other thing to say is it's 2 minutes a question, basically. So, you've got to move. You can't be spending 5 minutes on a question. So, if you're not sure, just have a guess. There's a little flag button, so you can flag one, and then you can review as you go through it. And this is all stuff that I built into the simulator, which I'll show you later on after we've had a chance to practice. Any questions now? I saw a hand pop up briefly, but I don't know if there's questions. No? Okay. I'm going to assume everything's going brilliantly. So you've got a choice as to where you do your exam. That's kind of a useful thing to talk about and know about. You can either do it at home. So there's an online testing centre that you can use, and so you can do that there. Sorry, I'm distracted. My daughter is singing opera in the background. Is it very loud? It is. Okay. I will write to the nanny and ask her. I'll have to speak some Polish to be able to be understood. Where's that gone? Excuse me a second. Proszę cicho, bo mam dużo ludzi. Okay, thank you. So you can do it at home, and there's benefits in that you don't have other people and you might not be near a testing centre. It's all done by a company called Pearson. They do something called Pearson View, and from what I've heard, it can be a bit challenging to do it at home. Like, if you're at home, they have to make sure there's nothing visible at all. No bits of paper on the wall. Like the guy that I spoke to who did it recently, he had a glass table in a box basically with nothing else. And even then he had like an extra ID, and they were like, what's that ID? That's not allowed to be there. So it can be quite challenging. Also, if you have like a power cut or something, or your internet goes down, then you forfeit the exam and you've got to start again. But if you go into a testing centre, and there are tons of them, like I think there was like 10 in Warsaw in Poland where I am, so if you can go into a testing centre, they're responsible for all that stuff, and I can talk a bit about that because that was my own experience. So that's probably useful and interesting. Book it ahead of time, and it's basically a little office, and you walk up and there's some person who helps you get your stuff ready. They check your ID, and then you can go in, put your stuff in a locker. I was allowed to come back to my locker in the break, which surprised me a little bit. You go in and they check your sleeves, make sure that you haven't got anything in there. And then he did come in once or twice because I was getting a bit anxious about time, because I had to go to the gym afterwards, as you do. So I was looking back at the clock like this, and I kept looking at it, and he came in to make sure there was no bits of paper or anything sort of hidden in the background. So, but it was actually, I thought it was a better way to do it personally. You do need to raise your hand if you're going to go to the toilet or something. Let's see what's next. Accommodations. I thought this was something about staying in a hotel. I was like, I definitely don't need that. It turns out it's extra time. So this is useful. I have full-on dyslexia and got extra time forever, and process information much more slowly. And for me in Poland, it was really, really hard to get accommodations sorted. I had to get tested by a psychologist, and here it was really hard for me to find someone who could do the test and then write the report. And they said, yes, Boris, we can write the report for you in English, but we'd have to give you the test in Polish. And my written and understanding comprehension of Polish is limited, shall we say. So that was a challenge, but it is really worth doing. So if you get a chance to get your accommodations, it is worth booking them ahead. Carly, I see you have a question.
Well, more of an experience, because I've got accommodations, of which there are many, and it's been quite a nightmare to book. an actual test centre that can accommodate all of those adjustments that need to be made. And part of me thinks, should I just do it at home? But actually be really stressful because I wouldn't get any of those accommodations doing it at home. And so they're actually they've had to now give me extra time to book it because I'm elapsing over the time now for which to book the PCC exam. And I've been in contact with the ICF in America to actually try and get it sorted out because they are terrible on the phone. Like, unbelievably terrible. As in, they're not bad people, they just can't communicate very well. And you end up, every question you ask, they have to go away for 10 minutes, check. You can imagine I'm on the phone for 2 hours at one point. Wow. With this company, and it was very stressful. And now I'm like, I can't fail this exam because I can't go through all of this again. And we still haven't found a location. We're still working it out. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, well, thank you for that, and I'm sorry it's been so stressful. I hope that once you've found the place that you'll kind of know at least for next time. So
hopefully there won't be a next time.
Exactly.
I have to pass. Sorry. I can't go through this again.
Yeah. Right. Well, thank you for that, Carly. So yeah, it is worth doing them though. So I figured maybe you would like to see a few questions, and we could get some questions. They are mostly PCC questions, the ones, ACC questions that I've got lined up. But you're kind of, I thought we could do them and maybe either pick someone or the group decides. I don't know how you want to do it exactly. There is a QR code there. That's just for a discount on my thing, but I'll come back to this slide later on. So I need to share the right thing. I should say, since I should plug my own stuff, shouldn't I really? It is worth looking at different resources, and one of the resources that you could do worse than is to look at my website, which looks something like that. Hopefully you see that. Do you see that picture of me? You do? Okay, great. So yeah, so I have a ton of good resources for you in this for coaches section. There's things like there's the link to the demo of the simulator, which we can show you in a minute. There's like a playbook. There's a whole like big article on how to pass the exam, and then if you scroll past all the gumph, you get like the PCC don'ts. I rate that. Things not to do. That often helps you with the worst answers, and that's often the hardest, actually, knowing which one is the worst. So yeah, things if you wanted to do your recordings as well, there's tips in here. So so I rate all of that, and here we go. So I prepared 2 rounds of questions for you guys. Are you all ready? Are you excited? Oh, isn't it great? Look at this. So the idea here is we're going to have some questions. I don't know if someone wants to volunteer, or maybe Emma can volunteer. Is that what they say? Someone can volunteer, and then we can go through. So here we are picking the best only, because we're doing the ACC ones, so we're picking the best ones. So who wants to go first?
Question, Boris. By go first, do you mean like read the prompt and then offer your answer, or what do you mean?
I think everyone can read it and then maybe suggest the answer.
Okay, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm hoping you volunteered yourself, Rachel. So well done.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. I was like, I know if I have a question.
Sorry.
Okay, well, yeah, I guess we'll let me read it then. Yeah, so I guess, I don't know, I'll just read it out loud. But a client says you've worked with lots of startups. What marketing strategy should I use for my product launch? Which response is most consistent with the ICF definition of coaching? A, offer a brief consulting answer now and return to coaching at the next scheduled session. B, decline to engage with the topic and steer the conversation to something else the client wants to work on. C, acknowledge the request and ask the client what options she has considered and how she would choose between them. D, share the 3 strategies you have seen work best, since industry knowledge is part of the value the client pays for. Oh, I see. Okay. Which response is most consistent with the ICF definition of coaching? Okay, well, I'm just going to open it up to the group here. Like, don't think I'm the sage on stage. Yeah, I guess I'm thinking. I'm thinking. So yeah, if anyone else wants to. Okay, we got Douglas says C.
C, obviously, yeah.
So we're going for C. Yeah, Hedrick, you had a hand up. Did you go with C or something else?
I'd go with C as well.
Yeah. Okay. So so here's C, and one of the things with the tool that I built is you've got an understanding of why. So C is correct, and cleverly I've managed to hide the answer behind my own computer's other screen. 1 second. Let me see. I'll move that around. So, and you can see a bit of information about why it is and which competency it is. Okay. Who's going to go with this one? Should I read it out? Do people want me to read it out? Yes, no? Yes? Okay. Which question best helps establish session-level measures of success? Is it A, what's the most important issue going on in your life right now? B, what do you think you most need from me as your coach? C, what would you most like to be different by the end of our time today? Or D, what are you feeling about our work together overall? So which question best helps establish session level measures of success?
I would say C.
So what are we saying?
Oh, I don't know. I figured, are we doing chat or are we doing talking out loud? I don't know. I guess I'm not sure which path we're doing, but.
Don't know.
Okay.
We have unanimously said C throughout the
C. Well done. C, 2 C's in a row. I really hope it's not all C's. That would be bad, wouldn't it? Too easy, Boris. Let's see. A team sponsor calls the coach and says, just tell me which of the 4 coaches you have is least committed. I will not tell them you said so. Which response is most consistent with the ICF Code of Ethics? Decline to characterize individual coachees and remind the sponsor of the confidentiality terms agreed at intake. Confirm or deny each name the sponsor reads out loud, treating it as informal feedback, not disclosure. Provide a candid impression so the sponsor can manage performance since the sponsor pays for the coaching, or offer the name but emphasize that the sponsor must not act on it without first speaking to the coachee. A, B, C or D? I can't see the chat, by the way, so...
Everybody is saying A.
Geniuses, all of you. Amazing. A client says that I'm totally fine with my partner's decision while crossing their arms and looking away. What's the most aligned active listening response? Notice the gap between what is said and what is shown and inquire about it with curiosity. Suggest that unresolved partner conflict may need couples therapy before coaching continues. C, trust the client's stated words and move on to the next part of the agenda. Or D, tell the client their words and body language do not match and they should be honest. I'm seeing lots of A's. I found the chat now, everyone, so very good. Okay, and you can see why it's correct. So these might just be a little bit easier than what you'd find in the exam, okay? Under the ICF definition of coaching, who is responsible for the outcomes a client experiences from coaching? The coach, since they're the trained professional facilitating the work. B, a responsibility shared equally between coach-client across the engagement. C, the sponsor, since they set the goals and pay for the engagement. Or D, the client, since the coach partners with her on her own thinking and actions. Got some D's, got some A's. So we were mostly D's, huh? And so, yeah, the definition centers on the client as the agent of her own growth. So, yeah. At the end of the 6-month engagement, a client offers the coach an expensive watch worth several thousand euros as a thank you. Which response is the most consistent with the ICF ethical standards? Decline only if the client is still a current client, accepting it is fine once the engagement has ended. Decline the gift, explain the conflict of interest concerns, and thank the client warmly for the gesture. Accept the gift and disclose it to the coach's professional supervisor for transparency. Or D, accept the gift if the client appears sincere and there is no financial dependency between them. Is it A, B, C or D? A swathe of B's. The room got it. Very good. So, question 7. Mid-session, the client falls silent after a heavy disclosure. What does maintaining presence most look like? Restating what the client just said to fill the gap, asking a redirect question to move forward toward action, allowing the silence so the client can reflect, suggesting the client take a short break from the topic. Yeah, allow the silence sees. Sometimes in the real exam, you will have, and I said this before, but honestly, like, you'll be surprised. There are 4 such bad answers that you are horrified. I was just horrified at some of them. I was thinking these are absolutely not at all coaching, any of them. And then, so, yeah, well done for getting C. A client who lost his spouse 3 weeks ago tells his coach he does not want to talk about his goals today. He just wants to share how much he is grieving. Which response is most appropriate from the coach? Continue coaching as planned and gently steer back to the stated goals of the session. Refer him to a grief counsellor immediately. At the end of the session, tell him grief is outside the coaching scope, reschedule for next week. Or acknowledge his grief, partner on what he wants from this session and discuss the referral if needed. Yeah. So I was expecting more ACC people, which is why this is in here. And I saw a question about, can we do something a bit more PCC-ish, and we can go over to the trial if you like, and there's some more interesting questions, more realistic questions in there. Cheryl, wasn't it? Cheryl. A coach receives a personal social media friend request from the current coaching client. The account mixes family photos, political opinions with professional posts. Which response is most consistent with the ICF Code of Ethics? Decline the personal request and offer a separate professional channel for the client to follow. Defer the decision and ask client during the next session to explain the request. Accept the request, adjust privacy settings so clients they only see a limited subset, or accept the request because openness builds trust between the coach and the client. So yeah, most people are going for A. So yeah, the Code of Ethics require the coach to maintain clear boundaries and avoid dual relationships. It's the same as the no relationship thing. So we've got one more here, and then after that maybe you'd like to see the sort of different set of questions. Client says, good leaders never show weakness. Which response best evokes awareness? A. Research shows that vulnerability is actually a real leadership strength. B. Where does that belief about good leaders come from for you? C. That is a limiting belief. Let us work on reframing it for you. And D, we can work on shifting that belief over the next several sessions. So lots of B's here. Okay. So, how was that? Too easy, I think. Is that right? It was good. You enjoyed it. So, what people have kind of told me is that through doing these, you kind of learn a lot of stuff. Even super experienced coaches, people with 3,000 hours that I've given the tool to, have come away saying, actually, I've learned a bunch. It looks a bit like this. So this is the coaching. This is the demo where you get five questions. There's the ACC or the PCC, MCC, and I am in the process, and I was hoping to have it finished for today. I was hoping to have it finished for today, but I haven't quite managed to get the new PCC exam. It's quite a big ask, because actually one of the important changes I didn't mention earlier that is worth knowing is that they're changing the ethics and the competencies that underpin the questions. So I've got 500 questions in the PCC MCC exam, and so that's quite a lot of questions to go through and say, right, well, which one is ethics, and then hang on, what's the difference here and there, and all that sort of stuff. So so technically the wizardry is all, IT-wise, is all done. I'm a bit of an IT geek. And it will be available in next week probably. So once you've chosen your exam, ACC or one of the variants, you get something that looks a bit like this. You can pick some questions and study, basically. So you can go through and just try 20 random questions. One of the great things about this is that at the end of it, you get, is it here? No, here it is. You get an overview of your competencies and where you did better and worse. So you do a bunch of questions, and over time you recognise that actually I'm stronger in these competencies, so I should probably work on these ones. And that's when you can drill into a specific competency, which for some reason that's not clicking. That's fun. So you can drill into it, and then when you drill into it, you've got like 100 and something odd questions for the ethics ones, and you can go through particular ones and kind of learn the things. And as you go, you see the results. Liani, is it? Or Liani? Tu as une question? You've got a question?
Yeah, oui. What do you mean when you say they're changing the ethics and the competencies that underpin the questions? I'm not I don't understand that sentence. If it doesn't really affect me if I'm just going to do this stuff.
Thank you for bringing up the questions. So so the ICF changed the ethics and sort of the rules of the ethics, as it were, and then the competencies for PCC. So there were like the 2019 version of ethics, and then they revised them. So there's an updated version. And so some of the questions are based on ethical situations, and up in the current exam that you're taking for PCC, you have to think in the lens of what the rules used to be in 2019. And they've changed them in 2025, so you've got like this new updated set of data, and the competencies have tweaked slightly. So those are like, think of them as the PCC markers, if you like, around. Is that making sense?
Let me say what I think you said, and you can tell me if it makes sense. Okay, so I took the exam 3 years ago, and it was the new one, which I'll be taking again for PCC. So I did my ACC one with what was 3 years ago? Because I was wondering that question today when I went over my notes of what I studied last time, and I'm like, oh my goodness, am I using the right version of stuff? Have they changed it again? So you mentioned in the beginning, use the right source for your studying. So is that where I can look for that answer?
Yeah, so the 2019 ethics is what's applicable to the current PCC exam, and then the 2025 version is what's going to be applicable from November with the So one of the things I wanted to point out, a few bits of the features of the system. There's like a study sheet that will give you tips and around how to take the exam. That's in the full product, but I mean, well, the bits I can give you are, it's a really good idea to read the answers first, and then it's a good idea to read the answers first so you have a clue about the scenario, if that works for you. For some people it doesn't, but for me it really helped. The other thing to say is that if you're doing the PCC exam, there's you've got 4 choices, and one of them will take the relationship and the coaching forwards. Another one will do some sort of harm or take things backwards. And then 2 of them, you'll have a nice, I call it a wander through the woods. You'll go off and you'll see some stuff, and then you kind of come back to the same place. So you want to kind of check in and see which is going to take you forwards, which is going to take you backwards, and which is just kind of take you end up back where you started. Honestly, sometimes in the exam itself, I did look and I was like, okay, this is definitely the worst, and I dragged it over, and then it was not the worst. The next question, I was like, no, the next one is the worst. Have we got questions here so far?
We have 2 questions.
Yeah.
One from Jen is, are those questions indicative of the current ACC and soon future 44 questions on the combined?
So they are, it's a blend of, they are more knowledge-y in many ways, so it is more related to the knowledge stuff than situational, but it was a blend of both, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And Emma, you had a comment about, if you think of the tool that I've got as a way to help you learn stuff and get your head around what to think and how to think for the exam, that's the way to kind of look at it. What versions of ethics and competencies are applicable for the ACC exam? I don't remember, honestly, Ronald, is the answer. I'm sorry, I should know that, and I don't at this second. I might have further bad news because I tried to make this work just now and didn't. So
I can say that there wasn't anything around AI or anything like that, so I would probably say that it was the 2019 version.
Okay,
Boris,
so
do you know the pass rate for PCC off the top of your head?
So if I remember correctly, 75% of people pass the exam, so that's reassuring. There's like 600 points. You need 460 to pass, so you need 460 to pass. But apparently, and it's a. So the other thing that's interesting to know is that they put, like, not all the questions that you see in there will actually be counting towards that score. As part of it, they're testing how well different people are doing on different questions, so that when they introduce them, they know that on average this is a harder question, and therefore this many people should get the right answer versus others. At least that's my understanding of what they're doing. So yeah, 460 out of 600 is the pass rate. Thank you for that. This is what the sort of trial looks like for this. And which one are we doing? PCC? I think so. So yeah, so you've got study mode, competency drill mode, and you can pick from, you can see there's quite a lot of different questions in there. And then you've got a full exam, so you get 78 questions. The timing's the same with the break in the middle. I think if we just go with the start the exam and see. So again, remember this example here is probably half as long. It's probably twice as long, and perhaps like a third more complicated than that. It's actually pretty complicated in general. So the client has filled the session with what he plans to do, what he should do, what he's afraid not to do. He pauses and said, I just don't know where to start, and immediately starts listing more things he is considering doing. What should the coach do? Help him prioritize his list so he can stop spinning and start making progress. Tell him he is in over-functioning and he needs to slow down before he burns out at this pace. ask him to rank the items by urgency and pick the most pressing one to start with this week. Offer the reframe. What would it open up if you didn't act on any of this for a week? And so in the exam, you want to pick your best and worst. In the real exam, you've only got really drag and drop, as I remember it. But I had tested this with someone who's blind. I don't know if that's a politically correct way to say it, but is not able to see, and therefore I added these best worst tabs so that it works for people with reduced visual impairments. So what are we thinking, room? Best answer?
E. Worst answer, I think, would be A, B, or A.
So I'm getting some... Sorry, so is my dyslexia playing up? B's and D's don't work very well for me in dyslexia, so I'm seeing D, D, B, B, and I'm like, what? Okay, so D, best, we're saying, and worst, B. Offer the reframe. Tell him he's over-functioning and slows down. So then it becomes interesting. It's like, so why is it this one and not that one? You know? And so if we put down B, and then you can see Y down here. So Y, D is the best response. Competency 7, reframe perspectives, invite how he sees himself in the world, support pausing his list making and offering structurally different lens. And the worst is about his labeling. So we, diagnosis, it's your opinion, it's influencing. Often with, so yes, someone said the trap is pretty helpful, thank you. Yeah, so there is a trap section to say why things are there. So yes, you've got these explanations on all of them, by the way. The other thing I would say is you can flag it. Okay, client has been describing how she handles her direct reports. She has said almost casually, I just really don't trust them. She did not pause on the phrase. What should the coach do? And what do you think? Is it A, B, C or D? So what are we thinking? Ignore the phrase?
I think the best response is C and the worst response is A.
Yeah. So we've got a few more agreeing with you there. C, A, and then we can look at Y. So yeah, competency 6.2, reflect back and offer observations. Call for giving her own words back. That's always a good idea. Give the person the words back. Sometimes, to be honest, you can just use a single word, and when you're curious about something, this is a nice tip I got from my MCC mentor, just go with whatever one word, and you just pause with a question mark sort of intonation, and then they're kind of forced to work it out and expand, and it helps them. You're not doing anything other than guiding them towards that thing. So top tip. Ignoring the phrase loses is almost certainly the most consequential sentence she has said in the session. And the trap B jumps to the next step of asking why, and D questions her word choice rather than letting her own word land. Is the colour okay, by the way? Like, some people have issues with it, and I did build in a bunch of different colours. Was this the one that you liked, Emma? I can't remember which one was good for you. Was it this one? It looks very similar. Sort of. Yeah. But in the exam you have got colour options up here as well. Client pauses and says, I want to share something, but it's hard for me. I haven't told anyone this. She doesn't continue, looks down and waits. So yeah, what is it? Acknowledge acknowledge what she's just signals, slow the pace. Ask what is it? In my experience, the best is easier, and the worst, the worst is usually something like holding some sort of, not being transparent, or holding a secret, or actively causing damage to the person in some way, or breaking an ethical rule. Those are kind of things that you can look for. And as you might briefly saw in the study guide, there is like a mnemonic around it. So you scan for trust and reject fixes, so not fixing the client, and not leading them, not pushing your ideas on them. So, last couple of questions. What do we think? Which is the best and which is the worst? Best is... So yeah, isn't it? This is it, right? When you're kind of stuck, a little bit like, is it A or is it B, or I don't know, and
I would say best is C, and probably worst is D.
Yeah. And by the way, I've talked to people who were involved in question setting, and they didn't tell me any of the questions, and I don't ask people for specific questions, just to be very clear, so people who've done the exam don't come and say, Boris, you've got to put this question in. But they did explain that even amongst themselves there was some disagreement as to which was best and worst. So, bear that in mind. Remember, 75% of people pass, so, know your stuff and be good and practice, and then you can, you'll probably be all right. Okay, so what are we going to say? Shall I just put any two? We'll go with these two. How's that? Acknowledge what she's just signaled, slow the pace. Ask her if she got more from the coach in this moment. And let's look at the answers. So what have we got? A and B. Well, that was lucky. Well done, Emma. So why? Supportive expression, competent openness and transparency. So those two competency 4 ones. So it can be helpful to think which competency is it, and therefore which one does it relate to. And then you can drill down and look into it. The worst response, what is it? Treats the disclosure as content to extract rather than a moment to hold, and is the option most likely to make her regret signalling at all. So, one last question. Do you want one last question? Do you want to come back and have other things? Yeah, more questions? Okay, great. 3 months into a 6-month engagement, the client says, with some frustration, I feel like I'm doing the work, but nothing is actually changing yet. I expected more by now. What should the coach do? A, suggest they review the agreed measures from contracting and assess where she actually stands against them today. B, empathise warmly and remind her that change in coaching takes time to manifest visibly for most people. C, partner with her on the evidence she's looking for and what evidence she may already have but be missing. Or D, tell her, in your experience, frustration usually shows up just before a breakthrough for clients at this stage. So we've got a couple of people saying best is C. So we can drag that over. Happy days. And then what do we think worst? We've got A, suggest they review the agreed measures. And D, tell her in your experience frustration usually shows up just before a breakthrough. So it seems like people are going with D. Let's put that in and see what it says. Yes, so there we go. And the point of these is to help you get clear on your thinking, begin to see and know the competencies a bit more, understand more the sorts of patterns. Do be aware that the question might well have 5 lines, including like, the assistant running the marketing department had this challenge, and none of that is relevant to the actual answers. So yeah. I did want to show you quickly so once you've done all these...
Hey Boris, can I ask you a question?
Please.
I noticed that you did the opposite of what you suggested, which was to read the responses, choices first, then the scenario.
Yeah.
Is there a rationale just to have us?
No. No, there wasn't, and perhaps I should have done it the other way around. I think for me in the exam I did it that way. To be honest, towards the end of the exam my brain was completely fried. It was exhausting. I did it in Poland, and I'm an English speaker, and that gave me an extra hour, which apparently isn't guaranteed. But yeah, it was really helpful for me because I couldn't actually find a way to get the accommodations I needed.
Okay, and then one other quick question: your scoring on the when you go through the practice exam, you give a percentage. You don't say 460 out of 600. You don't give that reference point. You just say a percentage.
Okay, well I can change that, but it wasn't a conscious thing, and I should probably bring it in line. I think it's to do with the fact that I don't have the norms of the data behind people answering the questions exactly at this time. So I think it's roughly 70-odd% if I remember correctly. You need to get.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you can have a look at so this is one of the screens that you can see in the exam. You'll get like a chance to review, and you go back and review the questions. It really is worth doing, like especially if you like hammer through them, because it is quick. And if you do guess, like if you're stuck, guess, put the and then move on, and then you'll get to kind of the end. You get to finalize the exams. Definitely compare, and then the useful bit, you see this thing and you're right, okay, well actually there were 2 that I didn't get right, so I'll go and drill that particular competency. So that's my tool to work through it, and I did promise that I would go back, and there is like a discount for Awaken people. It's the maximum discount that I give out. So how do I go back to my area? There it is, share. I did want to show you that again. There's a QR code, or you can use the link links.boristhecoach.com/awaken, and so you can either use the QR code, that will take you to the right page, or so will that links.boristhecoach.com/awaken. And so actually a good question came in about how do you know the results. So I don't know about online. I think it's pretty instant, but I did get, for me, I went and saw the guy at reception. He printed out the paper, put it upside down, made me sign some form saying that I had received my answer, and then I turned it over and I went, yes, I passed. So I was a very happy bunny, because it's been 18 years trying to get this, or wanting secretly to become an MCC, so I was very happy to get it.
Hey Boris, can I ask one more thing? If I've been studying the current Code of Ethics, the 25 version of ethics and the competencies, am I at a disadvantage, or should I go back and look at the older versions of those?
I mean, I think it's worth noticing and paying attention to the differences. It depends when you're doing your exam. From November, like it'll be, what you've done is absolutely bang on. I think they're not wildly different, if I remember correctly. But it is worth looking into the differences. Yeah. Other questions, comments? So thank you all for being so patient, and it's been wonderful to be here with you. I hope you found that helpful. As I say, best of luck with it. It is really worth doing. And you can always reach out to me and ask me questions. I'm quite approachable, so really, wonderful to be here with you, and thank you.